Hi guys, how are you? This is African Queen Mo. We are on with our live show. Wow. I really would have liked to be here on time, and I'm sorry to make so many excuses, but trying to look for for a position, because of the internet, because of electricity issues. Wow, it's a pain. But anyway, I'm glad to be back in my studio today, and thank you. I can see many of you have tuned in. Thank you very much. Today, guess what? We have such an interesting topic. Apart from the regular information that I'm going to give you about Kenya, about what's happening, which is not very positive, the best news ever is that Trump won the election. Say yippee! We Africans are happy. We're happy that Trump has won the election. Majority of us, I think, many of us are happy because we remember what it was like to have a Trump presidency before. He was actually president of the US. When was that? Anyone want to help me with that? He was president of the US back, I believe, in 2017. Yeah, for 4 years. And during that period was, I think, the time when we were able to be, we could be independent. He insulted us a lot. He said that we come from ash-hole countries, and many of us were not happy with what he was telling us. But the fact is that it was really true. Our countries were looking really bad at that time. But I think that the last 4 years of the democratic rule has been very, very hard on Kenyans and on Africans in general. This is the reason why you see so many Africans crossing the Mediterranean, running away from Africa, and taking off to the US. So first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is African Queen Mo, and I'm welcoming you to another show. I'm based in the beautiful city of Nairobi. I can tell you a little bit of my background. I went to school in the US a long time ago. I am a Gen X. I did my undergraduate and my graduate degrees in the US before I came back to Kenya to work in the field of development. I have been working in the field of development. I worked in that field for approximately 20 years, I would say, and I was working as an evaluator. And one of my clients was actually the United States Aid for International Development, as well as many others, many other international agencies, as well as country governments, many country governments of Africa. I've traveled to very many African countries. I don't know how many, like about most of them. I've traveled to many countries in the world, and I've been very fortunate because of my US education to be exposed, extremely exposed, and also to be open-minded. That's very, very important. The mindset that you get from a US education, I believe, is like, it's like no other, really, honestly. Yeah. So I thank America for my education, and I also thank America for my son's education. And I pray that we will be able to continue to educate our children to those levels, to those high levels. And when we say American, it means that America usually picks the best. Today, we start off with a news roundup in Kenya before we go into the gist of the whole show. And I also add one more person here who is going to present with me. Her name is Susan, and she is a lawyer by profession based in Kenya. Susan, welcome to the show at any point. So let me first start with the news headlines. Today, I bought a newspaper. I bought very many newspapers. I don't know if you could see those headlines. That's my way of summarizing. Okay? That talks about abductions, Interior Cabinet Secretary, police on the spot. Okay, that's what it says. I don't know if you can see it clearly. Let me see if perhaps I can show myself first a little bit here. Abductions, Interior CS Police on the spot. That is the standard of today, December 6, 2024. This is talking about two government rights watchdogs want the members of parliament to sanction the Interior Cabinet Secretary and the Inspector General of Police over police misconduct during anti-tax demonstrations, even as legislatures demand answers on abductions, extrajudicial killings, and results of the Kenyan National Human Rights Commission and Independent Police Organization probe. So that is the standard heading right there, abductions. This is one of the biggest problems that we're having in Kenya. We're having a lot of abductions of innocent, of the public, of members of the public, young people mostly, and people who are vocal and critical of the government. Many of them are getting abducted. And police actually have statistics on this in terms of like how many people have been abducted so far. And there are many, guys, very, very, very many. I believe if you go to page 8, it talks about the members of parliament urging to sanction the Inspector General of Police over police killings and things like that. You know, it's really, really sad. What they're demanding is, in general, let me see if I can get my glasses so that I can see clearly. Yeah. Yeah. This is what happens when you get to be 50. So, the Kenya National Human Rights Commission, they want the Inspector General and Interior as a Cabinet Secretary sanctioned. They want the National Coroners Act operationalized. They want Kenya to abide with the UN Convention on Human Rights. They want to be allocated with more resources. This is the Kenya National Human Rights Commission. They want to be allocated more resources. They want compensation of the victims. They want support for Witness Protection Agency. They want NPSC to take action on police conduct. They want the Inspector General Kanja to give them access to the same police stations. And the numbers, let's go into the numbers now. 45 children have been arrested and held alongside adults. That's 45 kids arrested and held alongside adults. What are children? Children are under 18, aren't they? 25 police officers have been injured during demonstrations. Is that true, Susan? Anyway, then 601 injuries have been recorded. 71 people have been abducted during the demonstrations. 71 people have been abducted during demonstrations. 26 people still missing. 60 people killed during the demonstrations. 1,376 arrested during the demonstrations. And all that is summarized nicely and neatly in this newspaper called The Standard, where the members of parliament are urging the sanctioning of the Inspector General of Police for failing to protect Kenyans. Yeah, when you hear figures such as 45 children arrested and held over alongside adults, that's really frightening. When you hear that 26 people are still missing, that is really sad. So let's go to the next newspaper. This newspaper is called The Star, and the heading is chilling. It says, "In cold blood, who will stop the killings?" And it shows a whole bunch of women. It shows a whole bunch of women. Let me see if I can get that straight there. Oh, sorry. All those ladies there. All those ladies killed. Over here on this, we have like about 1, 2, 3 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 15. We have 15 women over here. All right. All of these ladies have died during this period within the past 90 days, guys. All of these ladies here have died. And they talk about in cold blood, who will stop these killings? Who? The gruesome nature of the murders has sparked nationwide outcry, with many calling on the president to declare a situation of national disaster. Yes, yes, yes. National disaster. National disaster. So, I will be bringing Susan on board, but I just wanted to be, to have the space to show you the screen very clearly. This is a national disaster. These are only 15 women, and they don't even include the women that I mentioned yesterday. Yeah, maybe one of them. I see a runner over there. But these are just recent. These are the ladies that we have lost in Kenya so far. A chilling and a frightening situation that even the media, mainstream media, is admitting. And it's very, very embarrassing, I must say, as a Kenyan. I feel embarrassed. I feel very, very embarrassed about this. So what do they say specifically? Page 4 to 5. This is the thing that I found really interesting in terms of the headings. I love the fact that the journalists are getting active. And I thank the journalists for saying things as they are. And this one says what? It says, a country's silent war on women. A country's silent war on women, deepening crisis. So this is an admission of femicide. Yeah, and you see the women in there, they say, stop femicide. A country's silent war on women. It's a deepening crisis. This was written by a gentleman called Luke Awich. And he says, Kenya has in recent months become a chilling stage for a series of brutal killings, primarily targeting women and young girls. The gruesome nature of these crimes has sparked a nationwide outcry, with many calling on President William Ruto to declare the situation a national disaster. The shocking cases marked by extreme violence and disturbing frequency have shone a spotlight on the urgent need for action against femicide, a term that denotes the killing of women specifically because of their gender. All right. The most harrowing incident occurred on October 31st when police discovered a severely mutilated female body near the Langata Cemetery in Nairobi. The remains, primarily consisting of bones, were found abandoned, appearing to have been boiled, with flesh methodically removed. This gruesome discovery was a grim reminder of the escalating violence against women in the country. Then they go on to talk about what happened just days later. So this is where we are in Kenya, guys. Silent war against women. And as a woman, I am proud to stand up and be counted as those people who are not going to stand by and watch the cold-blooded killings, because we will stop the killings. We, African Queen Mo channel, okay, those of us who are watching this channel, we are responsible to ensure that the next generation and no other woman should lose their life. The third newspaper that I bought today is called the Nairobian, okay? And in here, the article that I would draw your attention to is this one where it says hashtag free Aoko. I don't know if you can see it here. Blogger and scribe Maverick abduction is causing jitters. This is the lady who I recently reported had been found, but according to what we heard in the media, but we haven't actually heard anything from her specifically. So the question still remains, where is this lady? Where is she? Where is she? She was abducted, and she was abducted in her house and disappeared. And on the day that they were actually installing the new deputy president, there was a statement that she had been found on that day. But actually, we haven't heard anything specifically from her, except for the body that you heard about that was found, the remains that were found near the Langata Cemetery in that horrific condition. So let's move a little bit away from those really terrifying headlines that are in the newspaper. We are looking at a national disaster, really. And finally, I want to draw your attention to this newspaper. This one is the Business Daily, okay? The Business Daily doesn't have anything positive to report either, okay? It says, borrowers are hit as the International Monetary Fund opposes the Central Bank of Kenya's plan to cut the cost of loans. You see? And we see the CBK governor, Kamau Tuge, in that picture. So the Central Bank of Kenya is trying to cut the cost of loans to Kenyans, I believe. You know, I don't know whether it's to Kenyans or... Let's just see what it says here. The IMF says the lender says Kenya may lose out on investment flows. Treasury and the Central Bank of Kenya are pushing to lower the rates to stimulate the economy. Okay? We need an economic stimulus in Kenya in order for us to get out of this S-hole that we're in, this rat hole that we're in. We're in economic demise as we speak. Yeah, we're in a very bad situation. Okay, so what has happened is that Also, the number of new taxpayers has actually reduced. And also, we know that there's been reintroduction of the 2023 finance bill and and aspects of the 2024 finance bill, which was rejected. If you guys watched the protests, another very interesting question that is being asked in this Business Daily is this. It's saying, if inflation is as low as the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics is saying, which is about 2 point something percent, why are we not feeling it in our pockets? Yeah. You know, I told you earlier, I mentioned earlier before in a different program, that the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, or it is being reported that our inflation rate is at about 2.5% or something like that. But the thing is that, and I also told you that when you go to the supermarkets, you actually see that many people have sales. In other words, the cost of goods and services is reducing. But that is kind of like, that is not an indicator that the cost of living has actually come down. It is not. Because in fact, it doesn't mean that because the supply is cheaper that the demand is growing. And really what we want to see is increased demand, increased sales. And that will tell us, yeah, that the cost of living, or should I say that inflation has truly reduced. So this is my research material, which I'm going to unpack better for you over the course of the week. And at the moment, I'm just going to leave it there and let you know that this is where we are with Kenya. And I'll allow Susan to come in and add her views. Oops, I think I just removed her. Hi, Susan. Karibu sana to the
Thank
African Queen.
you.
And welcome everybody on board. Hello, Fia. Welcome on board.
Thank you, Queen Mo. And hi everybody. Just to add to what you were saying, the government has there was a multi-sectoral meeting to develop a framework to address GBV, and at that meeting, the deputy government spokeslady, after the meeting, this is what she
GBV
said
is
to the news.
GBV.
Oh, gender-based violence. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So the spokeslady said to the girls, reject gifts from men and concentrate on studies. I don't know what the rest of you think about that, but she's coming from a stakeholders meeting, a multi-sectoral meeting. We assume there was research that was shared, deeper information that was shared. And I found it really sad. It was one of these moments, where you put your hands on your head. You know that emoji?
There you go. Don't
Yeah.
pass judgment on my big fat hands.
Yeah, for me, it was one of those moments because I thought that was a very simplistic view of the issue, and and very, very insensitive actually. That she was just sort of blaming the women and the girls who are unalived, and in the face of their relatives who are, might be hoping for some sort of positive attitude from the government. And she is the deputy government spokesperson, so that makes it even worse. I mean, and so for her to comment on that, and we know very well that even when you look at the people who were, Queen Mo has shown us some photos. They are different ages. And as we discussed yesterday, it's a whole spectrum of people from different, some are professionals, some are students, and all that. And some are in relationships and they're unalived by their partners. And, how it comes to reject gifts from men and concentrate on studies. I hope that the research that was shared at that meeting was more robust and, and well researched. I was very, very disappointed, but I was happy to hear that It was a multi-sectoral meeting. We'll try to find out more about it and see whether they've developed a framework, maybe in a later show, and share what we have found.
Yes.
And the issue of the other issue that came up in the news today from Queen Mo was the issue of the abductions. And that brings us to the former CS of Interior, who's now our new Deputy President. I just want to take you to some remarks that he made during the Supreme Court of Kenya's at 12 celebrations. He is an advocate, he's a lawyer, so he understood the subject well. He has appeared before the Supreme Court before, and I think I saw a picture of him. I think he was representing Ruto or the Jubilee government at some point. He was arguing at some point. So one thing that he raised, and which has caused a furore in the social media, especially somebody like Okia Omtata. And he said that are there higher interests than public interests? The public could hurt the national interest. So he was saying that could they possibly be, could national interest be one of the considerations? Could the Supreme Court, develop jurisprudence on national interest? Is it possible that there's an interest that is higher than the public interest, and that interest is national interest? And just to point out that this thing he's calling national interest falls under the chapter on national security. And so that already tells you about the use of force to defend. And I thought it didn't really give a good picture, because it was creating an hierarchy in the rights. You know that some rights are more superior, some national values are more superior than others, and yet the Constitution is clear that there is no hierarchy in the rights that are captured there in any of the clauses. There's no superiority. So at that point, I felt that one of the articles that talks about how to construe the Constitution says the law is always speaking. But at this point, I felt that he was suggesting that perhaps the executive should always be speaking. So and speaking louder than the law is speaking, because the Constitution is, nobody's above the law. And yet we find this type of statement, and I felt very disturbed by it. We know, and I was comparing that statement with the type of statistics that Queen Mo has shared, that during the protests, 71 abductions have been reported during demonstrations, 60 people killed, 26 people missing. Usually when you find people are missing, the likelihood that they are not just missing is really high. And then 601 injuries. And then, over 1,000 people arrested during that time, I remember there was something, and they were taken to court, and I think some of the issues that were raising were, I think somebody also was arrested because he had a placard which said, Ruto must go. And the question was, that was a personal opinion. Is there an offense anywhere? There's no offense that says it's an offense to say Ruto must go. So I'm seeing, to me, this is not a good indicator that we're looking at. I think the tensions between, we have our 2010 Constitution is very transformative. It's very forward looking. And I think although we came up with this Constitution, we still have the political class who were politicians during the older dispensation. That's the 1963 Constitution. And they still have not let go of some of the ideas about leadership. And so those excesses, or, under the 63 constitution, the president was, very high up. He was like an imperial president. And in the Gachagua impeachment case, some of the things they were arguing is we don't want to return. This constitution was written, developed by Wananchi over a period of 20 years to get rid of the imperial presidency. So we're looking at this type of comments sort of to me reflect back to that time, and it's to me it shows that although we have moved on in paper in one way, the mindset, the paradigm shift in the mind has not yet occurred. And that's why you can have somebody who is a former CS for the Interior making a comment which sort of suggests or is an attempt to justify why those excessive methods were used. And I understand, as I was listening to the conversation, that the defense was that the CS does not have any direct control over the police and stuff. But that is the docket. The police fall under the CS of Interior. And this habit of passing the buck downwards, and you are the head of that arm or that ministry, surely you should be able to accept responsibility when people under you do excessive things. Although we know for sure that they would not have done, the police with the pink water and the firing of the tear gas and the shooting and all that, they got instructions. They were not acting. They were not renegade. They were acting under instructions. So this remark by the new deputy president has caused a lot of concern. There's a lot of hitting back. One other thing he did say, and which the president himself talked about, the judiciary overreaching, going outside its boundaries. And the deputy president talked about the importance to clarify on the independence, the tensions between the independence of the three arms of government. That's the executive, that's the presidency, then the parliament, which is the bicameral house, the National Assembly and Senate, and the judiciary. So the independence of those three, plus the interdependence, because they are interdependent, yet they are independent. So that's all for me on the news bite that Maureen has shared with us. I just thought to add that and just give us some food for thought. Some of these comments, and I just want to leave you with this comment on that. In this area says, this is George Washington. We are going to talk, I think, about the US elections at some point. So one of the former presidents of the US, George Washington, said, "Your words lose value when your actions don't match." And could we say that of the political class? Do they say one thing with their mouth and do something else with their hands? And the other one is, trust is the hardest thing to find and easiest to lose. When our constitution is not adhered to, you lose trust with the people. So I think in this period, we've seen a loss of trust in the political class, a loss of trust in the parliament, and a loss of trust even in the judiciary. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much, Susan. That was a great roundup, of the news, and it's great that you've given some context to all those headlines that I've provided. We won't go into great detail, except that I like what you ended up with there. Did you say trust is the easiest thing to find or the hardest thing to find? Trust is the
hardest thing to find.
Hardest, yes, hardest. Okay.
And the easiest to lose.
And
it just takes one miscalculation. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very difficult to regain trust, isn't it? Yeah. And George Washington, when he says that your words lose value when your actions don't match, for real. This is the issue of being a person of your word. It's really important. I think that's really great. I think we'll have an opportunity to go more into the Constitution of Kenya, 1963 Constitution at some point, and educate people about the difference between the 2010 Constitution, today's Constitution. I believe our leaders, I agree with you, are experiencing some sort of selective amnesia. Yeah. From the previous constitution. They wish that they had this overarching presidency who was ruling, ruling and taking control of everybody, which is really what has happened, unfortunately, in our country. And the reason why we are discussing all of this, why we're contextualizing the situation in Kenya, is because Trump won the election. And a lot of Kenyans and Africans have been interviewed so far, and they seem to be very hopeful about some sort of potential change, from the current regime. And I think I want to introduce our new guest on the show. His name is Zapayoro. Welcome, Zapayoro, to the show under short notice, as usual. Zapayoro was
thank you,
just
Asante.
landed. Yeah, he told me just
Asante.
landed. Karibu
Yeah.
sana. Yeah, and
Yeah.
you will be telling us about why Kenyans and Africans in general are hopeful about what you predicted accurately to be the situation today. So, congratulations on predicting accurately from our last show that Trump was going to win despite all the odds. Yes. So maybe you can give us a little bit of a wrap up about, how the media handled the election, what you think, and why people are surprised or, pleasantly surprised or sad about new Trump presidency.
Yeah, well, I don't remember predicting the exact, the exact outcome of the elections, but I think I think I said that there's a great potential that there's a high probability that he wins the elections, and I was not um, like I wouldn't say I was hoping, but I was not favorable to. I was not in favor of Kamala Harris winning the elections, definitely. But last night, I think what really convinced me that Trump was going to win is the posture of mainstream media in America, particularly CNN and the mainstream media in France. What they were saying, I could read, I could read them like a book. Was like they were already saying that Trump is going to announce victory before the end of before we get all the results. He's going to, he's going to give a speech, but actually we have to wait. So it goes to show that they were already worried. They could see that they were not sure to win the elections. They were kind of preparing public opinion. And early this morning, I saw the French media already kind of admitting that Trump might win the elections. Well, for how many months they have been saying, no, Kamala is winning, Trump has no chance to win, and blah, 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 he's the devil. And okay. So I see sometimes when you are used to them, when you know them very well, by what they say, by listening to what they say, you can kind of figure out what the situation is. Because if they say that it's tight, it's very close, it means that Trump is winning. I mean, the person they are trying to fight is actually winning. Because I think I shared a video with you yesterday about that. From that by that Indian media was saying that this election is going to be the death of the mainstream the American mainstream media, because it is Trump against, not against Kamala Harris, but because she's a puppet. But he said it is Trump against the mainstream media. But me, I would say it was Trump against the dominant establishment in America. Yeah. So, well, I'm not surprised that he won the elections. Now, I am not so excited either, because, like I said I said last time, America is America. The only question is which orientation will the thirst to dominate take? It used to be, I told you before World War One, it used to be longitudinal. I mean, it was about dominating Canada and America itself and Latin America. But after World War One, it became latitudinal. They started to expand the domination, following the latitude, you know, and that's why they had to clash with the dominant European power, which was Germany, during the Second World War. But so I don't know which orientation they're going to take, but it's highly. It looks like Trump is insular. He has that insular trend, and he believes in isolation. He has already stated it. Less support to NATO if the other members do not contribute. Not involved in the agenda, the globalist agenda regarding climate change, you know. Okay, so, and planning to stop the war in Ukraine, which is major. When I say it's major, I'm speaking from the perspective of the geopolitical analysis. Not I'm not thinking about the human lives, and not an emotional or humanist approach, you know, because Ukraine in geopolitics, in American geopolitics, Ukraine is key, is very key. If you read the book by Zbigniew Brzezinski, you will realize that Ukraine was very important for, I mean, it's key because Zbigniew believes that without Ukraine, without the control of Ukraine, Russia cannot be an empire again. So it was important for the Americans to be in Ukraine, and from there to try to deter any ambition from Russia. So if Trump is going to stop that war in Ukraine, it means that's a major step forward. But I'm observing. I want to see what is going to happen. But definitely, it is definitely refreshing to see this establishment go. We have been living in that word. I mean, the Democrat and the ideology of civilization, civilizing the world, fighting for democracy, so-called fight for democracy, pushing for woke ideologies, you know, without even taking into account the culture of different African nations or nations of the global South. It was now overwhelming, you know, and lies and media manipulation, and okay, now it is really refreshing to see something new coming on the horizon. But we will see. But definitely, I also like to point out the fundamentals about the American geopolitics. I mentioned one already. I said the domination of Latin America. This is very important. They want to keep their influence there. And the other one is the control of their presence, in the Middle East. And the presence in the Middle East means that they are going to support Israel. Whatever happens, whatever the massacres, whatever the number of deaths. No, because that commercial route is important. If you take from Gibraltar to Pas-de-Calais, this is south of France, the Suez Canal in Egypt, and the Bosphorus in around Syria, all the way to the sea, the Sea of China, or the Chinese Sea. All that commercial route is very important for America. That's why they are going to support Israel. Without a country which is like a country which can be a military base from which they can project themselves on that commercial route, America cannot be present there. So they need to be there. They need to support Israel. no matter how many people are killed, they will support Israel. And Trump, I don't think Trump is going to stop that. Yeah, that's so the fundamentals will be there. So now I'm going to see what innovation, really Trump would come. But for now, I'm just refreshed to see the Democrats go. Give us a break, Yeah.
Okay, that's great. All right, guys. So I want to invite you guys to join the live stream. Join us here in the comments. This is not a lecture. This is not a presentation. This is for you guys to just, this is our opportunity to talk. Many of you have got good information, and this is your opportunity to share it. Go online, do the research. You don't have to be an expert. Nobody is an expert here, really. All of us are experts in our fields. For us, this is all new. It's just an opportunity to find out, what did Trump actually promise? Because you see, the media, as Zapayura stated, the focus of the media was mostly, positive on Kamala and everything negative on Trump. All I remember is the way they were talking about that there were so many flies, swarming his his presentations or his addresses. I mean, come on. We didn't even get a chance to find out what he had promised the American people and what he was probably going to promise the rest of the world. One of the things I know is that I think there are 15 million illegal immigrants that have been allowed into the country by the last administration.
Mm-hmm.
You guys correct me if I'm wrong. Is it 15 million or is it 15? Yeah, it's about 15 million or 1.5 million. There's a lot. You see, the whole population of the US is 390 million people, almost around a million. Of those, 15 million illegal immigrants are in the US, minus papers, minus documents, undocumented. And he has promised, one thing I know that he has promised is a mass deportation.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to deport a record number of immigrants, okay? And he's going to use agencies and states that are democratic, that are Republican states to help him so you just start seeing a lot of people returning. There'll be many, many, many returnees. There will be very many. What I foresee a lot of legal cases. I see a lot of returnees. I see a lot of jitters amongst people who don't have their documentation. I see a lot of people trying to regularize themselves, which happened in the UK, by the way. During Brexit, when they were going to implement Brexit, a lot of people got an opportunity to regularize their documentation. And then we also saw a huge number of people leave the UK, mainly from the Eastern European countries. Yeah, and they left the UK during the period when they realized that their benefits, they were going to lose some of their benefits, including housing benefits, healthcare benefits. They left and they went back. Many people from Poland, and all those Eastern European countries, mostly, they left. And then again, a lot of other immigrants who are undocumented were also rounded up, and they were put into these hotels by the airport where they were now interviewed. And many Africans have also been deported from the UK since Brexit. So we're probably seeing a similar situation happen. I know that he also, Trump, according to some of the things that I'm reading here, what did he say here? Like I said, the effort will include cooperation with Republican-led states, and he will use federal funding as a leverage against resistant jurisdictions. So you guys who are going to resist this, it's going to come at a cost. But you see, let's just see how successful he is, because as we know, what drives immigration is basically cheap labor. So those same people, those same businesses may actually resist and try to regularize and make sure that all their workers have the right papers so that the Trump administration doesn't come after them. Yeah, so he has been struggling. It's not a very easy thing to do, to deport people, but this definitely he has plans to do such a thing. Yeah. The other thing that he's planning to do is to reduce the cost of energy. He said he's going to do that within during his first year. His first year in office, he's going to reduce the cost of energy for businesses. I believe he's actually targeting corporations that are into manufacturing, and especially those ones that are targeting people of the laborers. The laborers. You know that many coal mines were actually closed, and many, sorry, coal mines were closed, and because of the climate politics, a lot of the coal mines were closed. Who knows, maybe he may reopen them, and if he doesn't reopen them, then he may just reduce the cost of energy to allow people to get into more manufacturing. I know he's probably going to try to build America and bring many jobs back to America. Trump has said that he was going to lower the cost overall by reducing energy prices by 50% during his first year in office, something that the industry experts have said is unlikely, because to do this, Trump has said he would have to allow oil companies to drill in more places, like on federal land in Alaska, and remove barriers to speed production. Oil producers are already pumping record levels, blah, 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 blah. Okay, then he talks about immigration, like I said. He said he's going to carry out the largest deportation in the history of our country of undocumented immigrants, claiming it would help the economy to free up housing and open up jobs for U.S. citizens. Of course, he's going to experience some pushback because there are business groups that have warned that deporting millions of immigrants could create a labor shortage that would ultimately drive up prices of labor, especially in areas like food production and housing, where immigrants make up a significant share. Taxes, Trump has said that he has proposed a number of tax cuts, including tax cuts, guys, while Kenya is actually facing tax increases. But Trump is proposing a number of tax cuts, including a complete elimination of the federal income tax. Wow. And then he says those plans have varying likelihoods. But you see, these are old reports, you see, that were very anti-Trump. So now maybe they'll be looking at things with a different lens now that he is the president, because they have to see. I think many media houses would need to be funded, so they'll be saying positive things. Yeah. So one of the most likely tax proposals to become a reality would be an extension of the tax cuts enacted during Trump's first administration, which are set to expire in 2025. So he might actually extend those tax cuts. They lowered the corporate tax rate to the business tax rate to 21% from 35%. That's nice. He reduced individual income tax rates and increased the standard deduction. So you see, taxes is one very sensitive area, by the way, which you can use to try to get yourself elected into power. He says that one of his favorite words is the word tariff. While inflation has been a top issue for voters, one of Trump's central campaign promises was placing tariffs on all goods imported into the US, which would likely raise prices and cost workers their jobs, according to economists. Okay, but that's now their interpretation. But this is what he wants to do. He wants to place a tariff, which is a tax, on all goods that are imported into the US. So maybe this might signify the end of AGOA. Who knows? And what is it called? The Africa something. Anyway, it's a Growth Opportunity Act, yeah, where people get tax-free, access into UK markets. So he wants to put tariffs on. The US will impose a tariff of at least 10% on all goods coming into the US from overseas, and 60% tariffs on products being imported from China. Oh my God. Yeah. Tariffs are paid to the federal government by the company importing those goods, like a retailer or manufacturer. Those companies can either pass the costs along to consumers by raising prices, or absorb the cost and take smaller profit. So anyway, generally, he's planning to introduce these tariffs, yeah, which would be anyone who wants to do business with the US, especially if you're in China, you're going to be facing high tariffs to import goods. So this is a way to try to, he believes, grow the local industry. And so he wants to cut inflation. It's about immigration. It's about taxes. It's about tariffs. Yeah. So this is where he's looking at energy costs, etc. So anything to lower the standard of living, lower the costs, not the standard, sorry, the cost of living. So this is where Trump is looking at, least internally in his country. Externally, with Africa, anybody want to take that up? What is he looking at outside of Africa in terms of international diplomatic relations with the rest of the world? What did we see him do in his first 4 years in office? I think I remember that he tried to make peace. He met with Zapayoro. You can tell us who he met with. He met with leaders even in the Middle East and North Korea. Trump.
Well, regarding the Middle East is he kept putting the pressure on. I mean, he did not give up the pressure, putting the pressure on Iran.
Mm-hmm.
But it did not go further, in the war in Syria or Afghanistan. No, it didn't go further. Okay, Iran, yes, he put the pressure on Iran because Iran is about Israel. And I think Trump will stick with that stance, that posture of America regarding Israel. But it made a huge step by meeting Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea, and then he had to talk with him, which is a big step. We know that in Asia, America has an alliance with South Korea and Japan, and these are very important alliances to them because if they lose those two countries, then they will be absent from the Pacific. They won't be in the Pacific anymore. They can still rely on Philippines a bit, but Philippines is not the most reliable. Japan and South Korea are the most reliable, of the American allies. Sorry. But when he goes there to talk with Kim Jong-un, it kind of bring down tension, in that region, which was key, which was good, for the whole world, until the Democrats came and then started raising the tension again, with Russia and whatever. Well, yeah, it did those things, but well, we'll see what is going to happen with Israel regarding Israel. But I definitely think he promised to do to talk with Putin regarding Ukraine, which is a very important project. If he does that, then that will appease, the whole Eastern Europe. Now, regarding Africa, he didn't say much about Africa. Does he? I don't know how he looks. I know he looks down on Africa, definitely, and that's why I'm worried that if he brings down tension against Russia, there might be a compromise between Russia and America, regarding Africa, and we will receive less support from Russia, in trying to free ourselves from dominant powers. So honestly, I don't even know what is going to happen. Honestly, I'm just trying to speculate. I'm speculating. But the fundamentals are the fundamentals, definitely America. Less aggressive is true, but America has fundamentals in its foreign policies. Now, regarding local politics in America, that one, okay, you might be successful or not, but it's very technical. For this one, we don't. Once you have a vision, focusing on America, now it is the job of the expert, the technicians, economists, yeah, and it depends also on the period, on the period and how things go around the world. He already realizes that the dollar has lost a lot of influence. This is a reality, so he has to face that challenge too. But locally, well, I don't know. What I know that America needs, definitely, it is obvious. I've never seen a country like that, deeply divided because the country was built on slavery, on discrimination, It has been worsened by the project to use Black people, not to integrate them, not to help them integrate, but use them as workforce in prison. And that project, it came from Nixon, then Reagan, and then Bill Clinton built infrastructure for that. So the incarceration policies in America was directed towards was targeted at Black people. So there's all those issues. That society is deeply divided. So America needs new foundations. And I don't know if Trump is capable. I don't think he is in the first place. America is not going to improve. The situation is not going to improve. The economy can be good, true, yeah, the economy can be good, but the society is deeply, deeply divided. I don't know how if he can sort it out, if he can really improve that situation. No, I don't think so. Yeah.
I think if I remember correctly, during Trump's first presidency, there was an increase of the extremist white groups. And as a reaction to that, you had also an increase of the extremist Black groups as a reaction. And I think that's when we had the Black Lives Matter protests. I think his statements are very inflammatory, and they tend to rile people. He doesn't hide what he thinks about people who are not white, and stuff like that. And the other thing I noticed, and then a question I want to ask, and it came up also. I was watching a video, and we're talking about these election promises that presidential candidates make, that I'll reduce this by this, there'll be this, and there'll be that, and there'll be this, and there'll be that. And this analyst was saying, most of it, if you're an economist, if you sit down and look at it, or you sat in budget meetings, you know that some of the promises they make are completely unrealistic. For instance, in Kenya, the promises that were made regarding or we will not borrow money, that will reduce this to I think there was even something about phones, and just really reaching down to the they won the election on the platform of hustler versus dynasty. So so he was speaking the language of the hustlers, and that's what he won on. But those promises, this video I was watching, every single one he has broken, because they were not realistic promises. They were just to get him a win. So to what extent are these promises by Trump realistic? Do the presidential candidates in the West, in the US, actually sit down and get an economist to help them to work out these figures, or are they just saying things that to get the votes? I was having a very heated argument with my children. One is a millennial and the other one is a Gen Z about the Trump, the US elections, and they were very invested in it. And they said, they were very disappointed in the result. And then I told them, actually, personally, I'm not so surprised by the result. My reasons were that I think the social atmosphere, the social environment was becoming too confusing. The what I heard is called ideological capture. It was permeating all areas of life, and it was affecting people's relationships. And I think a lot of people felt they were losing touch with reality. And I was telling my daughters, I think Democrats voted for Trump. I think they did, because they were tired of this wokeness. It was just too much for them. And they did not vote for him because is a good man or whatever. They believed even what he was saying. It was just he promised to put a stop to the things that they were, were giving them nightmares. Their families were damaged because of some of these things. Teachers were becoming more important than parents when it came to some issues. Children were being medicalized. And some of the questions they were asking is, if a child cannot drink or drive by a certain age, how can you get their consent to medicalize them? So there were a lot of issues. And then, of course, the other thing that was favorable for Trump is his family values platform, and of course, they came back at me and said, well, the guy's been married how many times? So what right does he have to talk about family? That I said, well, it was a very heated argument. And I said, and I asked him, so why are you supporting Harris? And they said, well, some of the things that they thought that some of the things Trump wanted to do away with is all this wokeness, including something they're calling critical race theory, which had started to permeate, discussions and stuff like that. I'm not sure whether critical race theory is a woke ideology, but that's one of the things that Trump said he was, going to put an end to, and stuff like that. They'll stop teaching it in schools. And so they felt that is something that is very wrong. Again, I think they felt that women's rights were going to be undermined or in the whole thing because of these strong values on pro-choice and other things. They're saying even the churches now, even the society is moving very far back. It's like taking a step back from the advances of women's rights. The men insisting that their wives must vote the way they are voting, things like that. And so some of these were issues for them. But I told them, I think, most Americans are just too fed up with this wokeness and the way it's affected their lives, and they just want a return to reality. And as Zapayoro said, maybe it's refreshing that you'll have, that maybe the brakes will be put on some things, and maybe it'll be a more refreshing environment. Although he's not easy to understand. I mean, if you try to listen to his debates, I think you get quite confused. At least I do. I'm not sure what he's saying, but that's my question. My main question actually is on these economic reforms, and when they say we're going to do this, we're going to cut this by this amount and stuff like that. Do these politicians, do they actually get those figures in advance, or do they just make things up and then, all they want is a win, and after that they don't meet those election promises? What do you think? Because they said for Kenya, it's definitely just to get the votes, because each one of those promises has not been met. For instance, like in Kenya, it said, lower taxes. You see what's happening already. There's a mess in the hospitals, The cost of fuel went up, skyrocketed. The cost of electricity to come down, no, it's gone up. Our bills are going up and up and up. Things like that. So people are saying, so that's as I was listening to that, I was thinking, do politicians actually sit down and calculate, or do they just say things when it comes to promises about taxes and stuff like that? I don't know what your reaction is.
Okay. Well, the way, first of all, I disagree. I disagree with Zapayoro when he says that he doesn't see anything positive that this gentleman has done for Africa, or what he thinks about Africa, or whatever. Because actually, I think that the one of the main reasons why I'm actually happy is what is kind of bears on what Susan is saying in terms of values, bringing us back to our traditional values, bringing us back away from those so-called woke culture that is so destructive of, so destructive of the younger generation, especially, and of parents. And we have seen this also in Europe, in the UK, in Africa. We have seen you've heard many young people who are so confused about their sexuality, about their gender. We've heard so many young people who are being recruited into specific gender idealized whatever ideologies, and some of them have even got to this extent of losing their lives. One of them is, I would say, somebody like Brian Chira. There are people, young people, who are losing their lives. Apart from losing their lives, they're losing their direction and their focus on what's important. And I feel that in a way, I think the idea of even just the perception that we should now start looking in a different direction and looking at things critically, such as looking at social media, looking at the internet, looking at the theories that are being proposed by mainstream media, by governments, looking at the policies that are being implemented critically with a critical eye. This is our opportunity at least to have a word to speak out, because in many cases we haven't had this opportunity to have this debate, to have these discussions, and to engage meaningfully with governments about what we want and what we do not want to be imposed in our countries. I think that's one of the best aspects about the Trump administration, at least while he was in power. The other thing that I felt when Trump was in power is that we had freedom to some extent. I felt that our African countries were more free to kind of define their path, because the focus was a little bit away from Africa and more towards more insular towards America and South America and Canada. So I felt that in this particular case, that is when we started to grow a lot in terms of our technological advancements, M-Pesa advancement, for example, mobile money advancements. People became very creative. We had a very creative economy at that time. And the other thing that also grew was the partnerships between business people in the US and in Africa. So, for example, because businesses were getting support in America, the gig economy grew much bigger, because that's also the period when COVID was introduced, not really introduced, when we experienced COVID, and then that's when we had the lockdowns, and of course there was a growth of the gig economy. With the gig economy came loans to businesses who were working from home. A lot of people who were working from home recruited people overseas in Africa, in India, to work for them, to work with them, to develop things with them online. So online businesses, grew. So I think that it kind of like spurred some sort of new ways of working and ingenuity. People became much more creative. A more creative economy, to try to make ends meet. And I think that kind of freedom allowed us to develop without having having always to be overshadowed or under the radar of the US. And I'm really hoping that we will be able to go back to that, because unfortunately right now I feel that we are experiencing something called state capture, legislative capture, law capture. We are just captured. We feel like captives. We feel captivated. Yeah. The banks are captured. I mean, we feel the oversight is unbelievable. The regulation, the bureaucracy is so high. So when we talk about state capture, we talk about state capture even in terms of our food. Yeah, when we think about growing our food, the horticultural bills that are coming up that are going to incriminate people for growing food, those are the kinds of things that we can now negotiate with the new government and say, you know what, we want to grow food our own way, our own indigenous way. We don't want to feel that we have to abide by these new rules or these new laws. This gives us a chance to be flexible and to negotiate as also as citizens with our governments, because now we're going to have different people who are representing the new administration, and they will have different policies around things to do with the food. Food is one of the biggest issues right now. The horticultural bill that is in court right now. Okay, that is the bill that is soon going to be turned into a law, and that's going to incriminate people for growing food. Yeah, the water bill. There's also the water bill that's going to incriminate people for harvesting rainwater. I mean, something as simple as harvesting rainwater, something that we've done for ages. Yeah, and we also have other bills that are also in Parliament. Susan knows about them. Yeah, that have the finance bill. The finance bill. We actually had a whole group of advisors sitting inside the Parliament, trying to enforce, the members of Parliament to pass the finance bill, the 2024 finance bill, that was so unpopular with Kenyans. And we had Americans from, the Democratic Party sitting inside our Parliament, yeah, oversighting and overseeing this kind of very close oversight and monitoring, and that kind of thing is too much. I feel that we just need that out. I don't know whether I'm expressing myself properly, but really I haven't done enough research on this, I must admit, and I'm not an authority on this. And I really wish that other people would come on board and join us here. But Zapayoro, I think you understand what I mean. That eye on Africa, it's always going to be there, yes. But on the other hand, America will be looking at its own issues and hopefully solving them. And I feel like if Big Brother is solving its own financial issues, especially, just look at what has happened in America over the past 4 years. See the number of people who are sleeping in their cars. And that seemed to be apparently normal. It's actually very frightening. Yeah, you even hear like Kenyans who are going there as immigrants saying that I'm ready to go and sleep in my car for the next 4 years to save money so that I can come back to Kenya and invest that money and build a house and, invest that money into business and stuff. I'm okay with sleeping in a car. Since when did we normalize sleeping in cars? Whole families sharing one room in a hotel, by the way. I've seen a lot of those videos in the US. I don't think that this was really rampant during the time of Trump. Yeah, where he also said that he was going to cap prices. He's going to start capping prices. Even probably real estate might actually be capped in terms of how much you can charge for a 1-bedroom apartment, 2-bedroom apartments. What's the maximum for each of the cities, each of the states, should determine what is the minimum and the maximum that they can charge. Because what's happening is that people are now they're out of options in terms of where to stay. Many people staying in their cars, and they're working. These are working professionals. Some of them are nurses. Some of them living under bridges. Students cannot afford to, they have to choose between paying their tuition, having a meal to eat, and where to live. That to me is completely immoral. I think it's time for us to have a moral lens and a moral angle to development and to the economy. And I think we have a chance with the Trump administration. I really think that we have a chance to renegotiate as Africans many laws and policies that are coming into place. Yeah.
I think I like the idea of, because of Trump's, policy of hands-off, I think his slogan was make America great again, or something like that, is for his first presidency. And he was concerned about what's happening in America, and his foreign policy was not very strong, coming to Africa and trying to impose the ideology on us. I remember the conversation with not Clinton, Obama, when he came to and told Uhuru about the LGBTQ plus people. And remember he said that, and the way Uhuru responded and said that's a non-issue. We have greater concerns in this nation, like food and stuff like that. That's a non-issue for us. I saw also, this is the Ghanaian president, also in a one of these international forums, telling the Americans that, because they talked about the LGBTQ plus, and he also said that in Africa that is a non-issue. So I think a lot of funding that has come is sort of tied for NGOs and people. You have to have a component that's going to address the LGBTQ plus people, and I think that has been something that people have found difficult to deal with, in terms of, why are you trying to force us to do something? If you're going to fund us, we have to comply with this. And so the hands off of Trump is better, because those ideas, and I think Zapayoro mentioned it as well, that about forcing the ideology on us, and so we have less of that during like conservative administration than we do have, especially Trump, than we had under the Democratic governments. I think I like that idea, because I think it helps us also to develop and think and look inwardly as nations, and not to depend too much on borrowing. Although they seem to still have a voice, the West, because for instance, I think they came out and they've had, I think they've talked about, I saw something about that the Kenya Kwanza government has to reassess its corruption issue, and pointing to that, and that's coming from the West, that corruption is serious, you need to address it, and stuff like that. We have 78.3 billion which has come into Kenya, and of course there are concerns about how secure it is. Yeah, how secure it is. Yeah.
True. The issue, Susan, is about our sovereignty and nationalism. Our sovereignty as countries, I think, is probably something that one can consider, even think about, even dare to think about under the Trump administration, because, like you said, they are actually going to be very insular right now. They have their own issues to deal with right now. They have this huge group of illegal immigrants that are in the country, and high expectations of the American public, for the Trump administration to actually deal with these issues. Right now, there are three other issues. There's the issue of, right now, I saw somebody talking about the fact that on TikTok, I saw somebody kind of try to summarize and say, TikTok, the good thing with it is like it's only 3 minutes and then that's it, or even 1 minute. He said, the war is literally over. Why? Because, okay, the three things that are gone: the war is gone, jobs are gone, money is gone from America, okay, under the Joe Biden administration. It's gone. Why is war gone? Because what this person was saying in summary is that Putin, Russia, will not allow has kind of disabled, using technology. Russia has kind of disabled the US equipment for attacking countries such as Lebanon and Iran, etc. They have technology that has disabled, that has actually interfered with the instruments, I guess it would be, interfered with the US's ability, the US equipment's ability to actually attack Iran, Lebanon, or anywhere in Africa that they so choose. So the war is over. So in other words, Russia seems to have more sophisticated technology that they can actually employ. And therefore, the capacity of the US to actually do what it wants to do is reduced markedly. So the second thing that he said is that jobs are gone. There are no new jobs. There are no jobs in America, at least according to him. And it's true, there's a very high unemployment rate in America that is not actually discussed, especially for people, who are at a certain level. And then he also said that there's no money. in America. Those are the three main issues that Trump is going to have to deal with right now. The declining influence of the US around the world because of its lack of investment in sophisticated warfare. That's one. And also it's sending of jobs away and outside of America, and then the issue of the fact that they've been printing money, and that one has increased inflation rate. You always see these videos of Americans in the US going shopping for food and spending a lot. Like there's some families that are spending about 400 to 500 pounds, pounds, 400 to 500 US dollars a week in food, just food, family of four. That's about $1,500 to maybe $2,000, So this is a big, big issue. And then also we saw that there was an increase in the cost of housing, a serious increase in the cost of housing, both in the US and in the UK, by the way, rental housing, the cost has increased. Yeah. And then again, the issue of the fact that, so war, jobs, money. So I think that right now the problems in America are so huge that with Trump's Trump's approach, I think that he will be focusing and more concerned with that and ensuring that there's at least some sort of diplomatic relationships that he's able to mend with countries outside of America. Now, these are all theoretical. These are my theories based on what I see. But also in terms of, I looked at a write-up on what Donald J. Trump, his strategy advances for prosperity in Africa. And he said that this was in 2018, okay, his last presidency, where he said he wanted to promote, President Donald J. Trump was talking about promoting prosperity in Africa and America. We hope to extend our economic partnerships with countries who are committed to self-reliance and to fostering opportunities for job creation, both in Africa and the United States. So self-reliance seems to be on top of his agenda. So he's looking at that time, he was looking to advance trade, commercial ties, to increase prosperity, and then to support open markets for American businesses, of course, to grow the Africa's middle class, which you can see has totally plummeted, promote youth employment opportunities and improve the business climate. So he wanted to improve the business climate. I mean, these are all things that we desperately need in Africa. And I believe if this was his previous strategy to advance prosperity, security, and stability for Africa, then I think this is a platform on which we can continue to work. Because I don't think that this was actually achieved in the 4 years that he was president. It wasn't enough time. If we can go back to that and expound on it and actually, unpack it and see how we can become more self-reliant, how we can create jobs for both Africa and America. It sounds all very idealistic, but it's also up to us to foster those relationships and to actually come up with ideas for how that can be done and how that can be achieved. Yeah. So anyway, I think we will be wrapping up in the next, I would be saying maybe 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. I think if any other last words, maybe Zapayuri will have anything to say there. Susan?
Well, my son, why am I not so excited about it, even if I say it's refreshing?
Maybe because you've been bitten. Once bitten, twice shy, maybe?
Well, because there are many challenges. Even Trump himself, he has to face many challenges. The first challenge is within America. I don't know if you realize that. I don't know if this happened in any other country in the world, but there were 2 American presidents who were killed, assassinated during their term. There's another one apart from Kennedy, and I think Abraham Lincoln too was killed, and Donald Trump escaped 2 attempts. during the campaign. So let's let's not forget about what environment, the type of environment Donald Trump is operating in. I don't know. This is really amazing. This is the only country in the world where such things happen. We don't know who is behind the death of Kennedy until now. America, who has all the sophisticated equipment to track people, face. They can recognize your face everywhere. They can track, they look for Bin Laden, where it's hidden. But their own presidents are killed. Abraham Lincoln, Kennedy, and another one. I think 3 of them. And we don't know who's behind it.
Remember, there was an attempt on Trump.
Yeah, 2 attempts. So to me, that's a warning. That's a warning because the American economy has been reliant on on the military industrial complex a lot, and this is why America has been a warmongering nation. It is to sell weapons. So Donald Trump has to remember that as well. So there are a lot of challenges. Social pressure, because for example, you were talking about Black Lives Matter. Yeah, it's not only Black BLM that was created. It was created by George Soros. We know that Black BLM is funded by Soros, by George Soros. George Soros, who is the sponsor of the Democrats. It was a whole movement. It was a whole revolution. They called it the Purple Revolution. I don't know if you remember when Joe Biden was declared president. I don't know if you remember the day of inauguration. You saw all of them wearing purple, like Michelle Obama, Hillary, or many people wearing purple. Yeah, it was a purple revolution. It was called the Purple Revolution. Mm-hmm. The slogan was "Trump, not my president." So they've been trying to destabilize the regime, the administration. There has been so many attempts to impeach him. You remember Nancy Pelosi crying, saying, "Yeah." They tried so many times. They tried to bring out, issues so he could be sued. And now during the campaign, he almost got killed 2 times. So he knows what he's dealing with. It's not a joke. So I don't know if he really wants to have, room to maneuver and to have his hands free. He has to deal with so many things. The CIA was involved in that. We talk about the ministry, the judiciary. The judiciary was siding with the Democrats. It became obvious that the judiciary was siding with the Democrats and trying to sabotage him. So there's so much hostility, within the establishment. He has to deal with that. And besides that, Trump himself, I don't know if maybe he's going to change now, but I don't take everything he says serious, because that's Donald Trump. He likes shocking declarations, and this is a strategy, and it's a communication strategy. When you say things that shock people keep talking about you, and you make sure that you are in people's mind. They don't forget about you. So I don't know if it's going to change, but he can say many things. But how many of those things he actually plans to implement? And even if he plans to implement, the world is really changing, really unstable. Now you have the loss of influence of the dollar. You have the BRICS that are coming so strong. You have the shift in people's mentality. So many things are happening. So we are going through a period of turbulence where America is losing influence, and we don't really know. I don't really know what. I'm not so excited, about what is going to come out of it. Now, regarding Africa, what I remember is that although Trump did not open a new military base in Africa, Obama opened the largest number of military bases in Africa. Still, during the elections in Congo, Donald Trump did send troops in Congo. He sent troops in Congo to put the pressure on Kabila when Kabila was trying to maneuver to stay in power, or maybe to, to put somebody he trusts in office. Why? Because Kabila had decided to amend the code, the laws regarding mining. And this is key for America in Congo. Congo is the source of mineral resources. See, so Trump sent troops around Congo. They stayed in Gabon, at the border between Gabon and Congo, ready to interfere in Congo. Yeah, I remember that. So, yeah, there are fundamentals in American foreign policies, and now we hope, there will be new good prospects for Africa. There are good prospects for Africa, but I don't know. I'm not sure. What I know it would have been much more dangerous, inflammatory with the Democrats. I know that one for sure, but I don't know about Trump, what he's going to do. But America needs really a leader, needs new leadership that will go back to the fundamental, the foundation of the American society to change things. Because even if the economy is better, it's not going to improve the societal issues in America. That country is completely divided. It was built on slavery. The economic complex has been making money. The military industrial complex has been making money on war. That would be very difficult for Trump to be a good president, Yeah. So that's it. That's what I'd like to point out. Dangerous country where the president can get killed and nobody knows who's behind. All those things. I don't have. I'm not. I can't get my hopes very high regarding Donald Trump's term. Yeah. Although I'm happy that the Democrats are gone.
I remember seeing there have been some videos flying on social media. Is a sort of saying, oh sorry, I haven't put my camera on. Sort of suggesting that the Kenya Kwanza government are not happy that Trump won. I don't know whether you've seen them. Yeah. And probably it's because of that, maybe opportunities.
Why would we be surprised?
Yeah, I saw that, and I just I thought, well, that's an interesting response. Although, like you said, why would we be surprised?
Yeah, I thought Azimio had better connection with the Democrats. I think that's what I thought. Azimio, they have more connections with the Democrats. Well, that's what I thought.
Actually, President Ruto sat on Joe Biden's chair, and that needs to be analyzed in terms of whether that impacted on losing of Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
I always be like, why? You guys, man, you don't know what happened over there, man. Hey, they should look back and see when the Kenyans came there, that whole bunch of Kenyans, maybe they're the ones who made the Democrats lose. Yeah, definitely. Because there was so much bad press from that whole trip. So much bad press. So it's probably just one of the few things, that contributed. But anyway, I'm not so negative. I would have I would have been very sad really if the Democrats really won. Although I know that people who are living in America don't quite understand the difference between the foreign policies of Donald Trump and the local policies. So we'll be evaluating him from different, or looking at the elections from very different perspectives. And that's the thing. And I think we should be fair to the Americans who are like very worried about, their safety, about what will happen in terms of, like Susan said, those extremist groups that may rise. But I also think that this is a different time and place, because there's been a lot more education and a lot more understanding that they're all together anyway, and that divisions are made Divisions are created not for the benefit of the people, but for the benefit of politicians.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
people, yeah, that's the reason why you actually saw the Somali community in Minnesota actually was supporting Donald Trump. And they came together and
Yeah,
they supported Donald Trump openly. And there are many other people of color, Black people who supported Donald Trump. Yeah, just as much as there were also Black people supporting Kamala Harris. Yeah, like Oprah Winfrey, Beyonce, all those big celebrities, Paula Abdul, what are they? Their names? Yeah, J Lo. I think it's J Lo, not Paula Abdul. Sorry, J Lo. All those celebrities were supporting Paula Abdul. Yeah,
there's been
and also I believe Bill Gates, was also supporting Paula Abdul. So I think people are understanding more. There's a little bit more. I think TikTok, all the social media platforms have also really helped to give people understanding about who we are as Africans, as Asians, as white people, that I think that the divisions are not as serious as they were during that period of the Trump presidency. Just because there's a greater understanding and appreciation for different people from different cultures and places. And also at the same time seeing the similarities and the suffering that we all suffer together,
yeah.
regardless of who is in power. Yeah, I feel that way. I'm a bit more positive in that sense.
I think there's much more awareness. People have a better understanding of the politics. You know how dirty it is, especially in the West. You were talking about the loss of value. I mean, of the public word. I mean, public speeches. You know, public discourse. Yeah, because that's the rule. It's the best liar who wins, and this is it has been like that. It has been communication. Yeah, it's like that in France. We know that Emmanuel Macron was lying. We know in America politicians lie. We know, and it's absolutely normal. This is part of the game. Whereas in Africa, a man, the dignity of a man, of a person, is based on their words. You know, the value of a person is based on their word, what they say. You know, but we have lost that paradigm. We shifted. We adopted. You know, the commercial and the communication approach of the politics in the West, which is sad. You know, we have to come back to as it would better for us to come back to those values. So there are so many issues, and talking about that the establishment Donald Trump is facing. Remember as well that if Elon Musk hadn't bought Twitter, he was banned. He had been banned by Twitter. Donald Trump had been banned by Twitter for life. He had been banned by Facebook, you know, all those people. So he has to face all those. So is he going to be able to? Because they have so much money. They are so powerful. Now, if they depending on how much influence they have on the people in the first place, are the people really ready, you know, to operate that shift, you know, in mentality, to understand? Because they have been infantilizing the American population, the Western population, for so long. I know that when people, you know what people say? They say that small minds talk about people, middle-sized minds talk about events, and great minds talk about ideas. It's never about ideas. It's always about Donald Trump as a person, you know, as a person. He's that as a person. And he's also riding on that, you know, he's playing because he knows that he can get people's attention on him as well, you know, when people talk about him. So much infantilization. I hope that shift happened and America decides to change. I mean, the people and leaders who are really who have a vision. Otherwise, they have just been manipulated, and that society has serious issues. Serious issues. America has serious issues, and they should be aware of that. They have serious issues. But anyway, I'm concerned about Africa, and what I see. Um, Africa needs to be free. That's it. Now, how are we going to be free? If we have to face the Western powers, we need the support of other powers. You know, okay. If we don't have the support, what is going to happen? Because the resources are in Africa. We all know that nobody is going to forget about the resources in Africa. 30% of mineral resources, 63, at least 63% of arable lands. The youth, we talk about now 1.5 billion people. So who's going to look, turn a blind eye on what Africa has to offer? So then predatory attitude will not stop. Yeah. And it doesn't stop like that, it takes long. Now, the last thing, sorry, I'd like to point out, you were talking about the social issues, societal issues in America, that division, racism. It doesn't change within a generation. If there's still racism in America, it takes many generations. It will take many generations to stop. So before Trump, there will be it. After Trump, there will still be racism in America. It won't change like that. It won't change in 2 or 3 generations. So those extremist groups are there. They will be there because it's America. It's America.
So what's your final position on the topic of today? Trump rises like a phoenix. Why Kenyans or Africans are hopeful. What's your final position? Yeah. Not to be hopeful?
He did rise as a phoenix. That's for him. He's successful, but now he has to make sure that he doesn't die quick, because the enemies are so many. They send him a warning. During this term, he saw how he struggled. Maybe the only difference this time, he came with more legitimacy, because the gap, I think, between him and Kamala Harris is significant. So he can make the most of it, the best of it. But so he has risen as a phoenix. Good. Now, how long is he going to survive? Okay, now Africa should be hopeful, because not because of Trump particularly, because the world is changing. And now it is up to us to make the most, the most of that period, of that window of changes we have, that window. Yeah. It is up to us, not only about America. We are free to go and build alliance with other powers. We are free to decide to wake up and unite, like people are doing in the Sahel. 3 countries decided to create a confederation. Now they are going to be a federation. We are free to do that if we want, and we have to pay the price. But it's up to us. It's up to Africans to do that. The same as European countries. It is high time European countries wake up and decide to become independent, because America is pulling away. They should take the future in their hands. Russia is there. Russia has so much resources. Why don't they get together with Russia? Why don't they work with Russia to become independent, to become self-reliant, self-sufficient in terms of resources plus technology, instead of going to steal resources in Africa? Opportunities are open. The world is open. To me, the new world is open, and I'm very happy about that. The world of that we have been living in, ruled by the law of jungle since the Second World War, is going, and I'm just happy about it.
So my take still,
okay,
and my quote, time will tell. First of all, whether the election promises will be kept, whether they'll morph, whether they'll find excuses not to meet them. And so his words will lose value if his actions don't match them.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. And really, thank you so much for being on the show, because I think you already know my position. I already stated it. My position is that there is a lot of hope for Africa. And because of the fact that we just have a change of guard, it just means an opportunity for fresh ideas, fresh ways of thinking. And I think that Donald Trump, if he's intelligent, he will be looking for people to give him fresh ideas, to give fresh ideas and solutions to the problems that we have in Africa. And I think that we should not be shy to try to propose solutions like Zapayero said there. We can decide to become a federation, or we can decide to look to other countries, to partner with them. I feel that, it just breathes us a little bit of new life into what was looking like a dead beat horse. Kenya was this horse that was being flogged and flogged and flogged. Yeah. Every day we wake up, it's a new thing. It's a new thing, and it's never positive. So for me today, I took a break. I took a break, and I'm actually very happy about the Trump, about the fact that Donald Trump has come to power. But on the other hand, I am concerned because we have a lot of Kenyans who are living in America, and we don't want to actually see people who are living in America who are, Black people or people of color suffer because of the fact that he has come to power, especially people who are there legally, I think, and people who are actually contributing to the economy. I feel that there should be equality, and the Constitution of America should be respected, that, God for us all, God for us all. And each person has a responsibility. Every individual has a responsibility towards each other. I lived in the US. I went to school in the US. It's a great country, fabulous country, great potential. And I'm hoping that people will come together regardless of skin color, regardless of, anything, and just build the country. Build the country.
Sorry to interrupt. It's a great country, but not for American Indians, I would say.
All right. Yeah, I know. I can see your trajectory now. I can see your trajectory. But you see, even Native Americans also, they have now an opportunity, perhaps, to also direct their costs, to also bring their problems to the fore. Because, as we grow, we learn. As we're growing every day, there's an opportunity for new learning. So, and yes, it's good also to be cautious, to be cautious and not to be overly optimistic. But on the other hand, I believe things can only be done if you have a can-do attitude. Yeah, if you have a can-do attitude, I think we can do something. And especially in this country of Kenya, this is our opportunity now. Yeah, to make demands, to make fresh demands. For example, in Kenya, right now there is a demand for the ambassador of Kenya, who was under the Biden administration, to leave. Kenyans are demanding that she leaves. Yeah, Meg Whitman. And that's, I think, already giving us a little bit of emboldenment to say, hey, we're done with you, man. Yeah, let's see who else that can come in and maybe give us a better deal here. Because this is just not working out for us in Kenya. Yeah. She's not an agent of positivity in Kenya for Kenyans. And therefore, this is our opportunity to say, hey, President Trump, please come and take your person out of here. Bring us your new person in here, somebody who is ready to work with us, work with Kenyans, and not work against Kenyans. Yeah. So there we go. On that note, I want to say thank you all for being present. Thank you all for participating in this show. And I'm hoping that you're going to continue. Remember to like this video. Give it a good like. Give it a good thumbs up. And okay, and we'll see you tomorrow or the next day. Whenever you see the notification, we will be there. Thank you so much, Susan and Zapayoro.
Hi, Susan.
Pleasure.
Yeah, bye.
Lovely to chat with you guys. Have a good evening. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.